A glass shattered against the wall, and she didn't flinch. Listen, K-fam. 6:40 in the morning. Dr. Maya Bennett walks into the CO compound with a lunchbox in one hand and a contract in the other. 30 years old. Black. A physical therapist who rebuilds spines nobody else will touch. The contract says cosmetic. Keep the man in the chair looking well, nothing more. CO Tae-hyun, 37. They call him the Quiet One. Black koi carp inked down the left side of his neck, sliding under a navy collar. Platinum watch. Carbon fiber wheelchair. A voice he hasn't spent on anyone in months. Her father's debt. Her sister's rent. A non-disclosure agreement signed under an old man's stare. She needed that job. He threw the glass to make her leave. She locked the door instead. Then she pressed her thumb into the arch of his foot. And his toes moved. Nobody in that house was supposed to know. So the sessions started at 2 in the morning, whispered, brutal, behind a locked door. A nurse's binder kept saying no change. Somebody in that mansion was paid to keep writing those 2 words. K-fam, keep your eyes on the paperwork. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. The gate camera stared at Maya Bennett for 9 seconds before it let her in. She stood on the granite step with a lunch tin against her hip, ivory silk shirt already creased at the elbow from the bus rail, and she counted those seconds the way she counted reps. 1, 2, 3. Somewhere behind that lens, a man was deciding whether a black woman with a thermos belonged on this property at 6:40 in the morning. The lock finally clacked. Maya walked in like the delay had never happened. The CO compound swallowed sound. Her white clinical sneakers made no noise on the stone, and the stone went on for a long time. Past a courtyard with a pond, past a wall of glass that showed the Han River going gray, past 2 men in black suits who watched her pass and said nothing into their earpieces because they had already said it before she reached the door. "You're early," a voice said behind her. She turned. Yoon Do-shik filled the corridor the way furniture fills a small room. Buzz cut going gray at the temples, no tie, black crew neck under the jacket, boots that had never been new. The burn scar on the back of his left hand caught the lamp when he lifted it toward her lunch tin. "Open it." Maya popped the lid. Rice. Braised short rib. A boiled egg cut in half. Yolk facing up, because that's how her mother had done it. And Gloria still did it, and now Maya did it without thinking. Do-shik looked at the food for 3 full seconds. "Whose is this?" "Mine. You bring food into this house. I bring food into every house. My last patient's family fed me nothing for 11 weeks. I stopped asking." She snapped the lid shut. "Am I clear to work, or do you want to weigh it?" Something moved at the corner of his mouth. Not a smile. Permission. He stepped aside. The elevator went up 2 floors and opened onto a hallway with 1 door. Everything in the Seo house was like that. 100 meters of nothing. Then the thing that mattered. Maya's badge read, Dr. Maya Bennett, Physical Rehabilitation, Temporary. And the word temporary was printed in a slightly different font, like it had been added late. The office was not the patient's room, it was Kwang-shik's. He was already at the desk when she came in, and he did not rise. 58. Thick through the shoulders, iron gray hair combed flat, thin gold-rimmed glasses, sitting on a square face carved with deep lines from nose to jaw. A short scar split his right eyebrow into 2 unequal halves. His black cane leaned against the desk within reach of his hand, and his hand stayed near it. "Sit," Seo Kwang-shik said. Maya sat. She put the lunch tin on the floor beside her chair, not on his desk. Small choice. He noticed it, and she wanted him to. He slid a folder across the wood. "Your contract." She opened it. 22 pages. Her eyes went to the fourth clause, the way they always went to the fourth clause, because the fourth clause is where they hide the thing they don't want you to read on page 1. The practitioner acknowledges the engagement is cosmetic and maintenance-oriented in nature. The practitioner shall not represent, imply, or pursue any expectation of ambulatory recovery. Maya read it twice. Then she looked up. Cosmetic, she said. Muscle tone, circulation, preventing sores. Kwang-shik folded his hands. His jade signet ring clicked against the old gold watch on its worn leather strap. My nephew's spinal injury is complete. 3 surgeons have confirmed it. You are here so that his legs do not shrivel while he sits in front of investors. 3 surgeons signed that? 2 signed, 1 agreed. That's not the same sentence. In this family, it is. Maya turned to page 19, the signature block. Above it, in bold, a second document had been stapled in, a non-disclosure agreement. 6 pages, dense. She read that one slower. Any clinical observation, communication, recording, or documentation generated in the course of this engagement is the exclusive property of CO Holdings and may not be disclosed, retained, or reproduced. And below it, in a clause someone had drafted with care, breach shall be deemed evidence of intent to influence, manipulate, or exploit the patient. Manipulate, exploit. Those 2 words, sitting in a therapy contract like a knife in a fruit bowl. Problem? Kwang-shik asked. You've written it, so that if I say anything about his condition to anyone, that itself proves I was working him. You understand contracts. I understand people who write them. The old man's mouth moved. He almost enjoyed that. He uncapped a pen, a heavy one, and set it on the folder with the nib pointed at her. 18,000 a month, he said. American, 6-month term. There is a physician in this house, a nurse, and a security staff of 11. You will not need friends among them. Maya's hand did not move toward the pen yet, and she made herself take 1 breath before it did. Because 18,000 a month was not a number. It was a list. It was the $406,000 her father had signed for 8 years ago in Baltimore. A restaurant, a partner, a second mortgage, and a stroke that arrived 4 months after the partner did. It was the folder of collection letters in her sister's kitchen drawer. It was Gloria in navy scrubs and a mustard head wrap doing back-to-back doubles at a nursing home in Silver Spring and putting the rent on a card. It was the message on Maya's phone from 11 days ago that she had not deleted. They're saying the 30th now. Don't send anything. I mean it. Gloria always meant it. Gloria had never once meant it. Maya picked up the pen. 1 condition, she said. Kwang-shik's fingers stopped moving on the cane. I record my sessions, Maya said. Audio only, time-stamped. Every patient, every time, for 11 years. If a family ever says I hurt someone, I don't argue. I play the file. That would be my property. Says so right here. She tapped the NDA. You keep it. I don't publish it. I don't email it. It lives on the device, and the device stays in the house if you want it to. She let the pause sit. Or I don't sign, and you find someone else who'll drive an hour and a half at dawn to massage a man you've already buried. The room got very quiet. Down in the courtyard, a gardener dragged something across gravel. Nurse Han keeps the vitals binder, Kwang-shik said at last. Your recordings do not replace it. They supplement it. Understood. And you will hear things in that room. I'll hear a man breathing. He watched her for a long moment. Then he nodded once, and the nod was not warm, and it was not agreement. It was a man filing a fact for later. Before the nib touched paper, she stopped and went back to clause 4, 1 more time. Change 1 word, she said. Kwang-shik's eyebrows went up. The scarred one went higher than the other. Shall not pursue. any expectation of recovery. Maya turned the page toward him. Take out the pursue. Leave dame. Represent. I'll never promise that man anything, but you're not putting a clause in my contract that makes assessment itself a violation. What is the difference? The difference is that if his quadriceps fires next Tuesday, one version of this sentence means I report it, and one version means I hit it. The old man's thumb moved slowly along the top of the cane, up and back, up and back. His quadriceps will not fire next Tuesday. Then the word costs you nothing. Kwang Shik took the pen back from her, drew a single line through the pursue, and initialed the margin. The line was very straight. He returned the pen with the nib pointed at her again. You are a careful woman, he said. I'm a paid woman. It's similar. Maya signed. 22 pages. Her handwriting got smaller by page 15, the way it always did. At page 21, her phone buzzed against her thigh. She let it buzz. She knew the rhythm, 2 short, 1 long, Gloria's contact tone, the one she'd set 4 years ago after the second hospital call about their father. She signed the last page, then she turned the phone over on her knee, under the desk, and read 4 words. Card declined. No way, don't panic. Maya put the phone face down on her thigh and finished dating the signature block. April. She wrote the year without hesitating. She was capping the pen when the door opened without a knock. Seo Hye-jin came in the way weather comes in. 31, tall, in a champagne column gown at 6:50 in the morning. The kind of dress you don't put on for breakfast. The kind you haven't taken off since last night. Glass straight black bob cut below the collarbone, center part surgical. A small mirrored clutch swung from 2 fingers. She looked at Maya's face, then at Maya's shoes, then at the lunch tin on the floor. Oh, Hee-jin said. You brought your own. I did. That's so practical, she said. What? Practical? The way other people say, unfortunate. She turned to her uncle without lowering her voice at all. Samchon, this is the physio? She looks like she came to fix the plumbing. Maya's expression did not change. 11 years of families, you learn the face. She has excellent references, Kwang Shik said. From where? A gym? Hee-jin dropped into the chair beside Maya's, crossed her legs, and let one silver sandal dangle. Sweetheart, do you know who my brother is? Seo Tae-hyun, 37, T4 complete, 8 months post-op, 2 revisions, pressure sore risk at the sacrum. His last therapist quit in March. Hee-jin blinked, just once. It was the first honest thing her face had done. She didn't quit, Hee-jin said, recovering. She was released. Then somebody wrote, quit, on the discharge form for fun. Kwang Shik made a sound in his throat that could have been a cough. Hee-jin stood, smoothing the gown over her hip. At the door she stopped and turned, and now the voice was sweet, which was worse. A word, since you're new. My brother throws things. He broke a nurse's cheekbone in February. Accident, of course, but her cheekbone didn't care. She opened the door. Don't stand in front of him. Stand to the side. And don't ever tell him he's going to walk. That's the one that makes him aim. The door closed on the smell of jasmine and something else. Something with alcohol in it. Kwang Shik took his glasses off and cleaned them on a cloth from his breast pocket. My niece is upset, he said. The company is in a difficult season. Is that what that was? He put the glasses back on. Room 4. Nurse Han will bring you the binder. He picked up the cane, tapped it once against the desk leg, and the tap sounded like a period at the end of a sentence. Dr. Bennett, 60 minutes, not 61. Han Ji-woo was waiting in the hallway with a clipboard held to her chest like a shield. 33, barely over 5'3", pale mint scrubs under a white cardigan, black hair scraped into a bun so tight it pulled at her temples, silver-framed glasses, under her eyes, shadows that no amount of sleep was going to fix. A small gold cross sat at her throat, and she touched it when Maya said, "Good morning." "Dr. Bennett." Her English was careful, rehearsed. "I have the vitals binder." "Show me." Ji-woo opened it. Rows and rows, ruled by hand, 8 months deep. Blood pressure, pulse, skin checks. And in a column on the far right, in the same 3 characters written over and over down every single page like a chant. "No change, no change, no change." Maya ran her thumb down the column. "You wrote all of these?" "Yes. Every day, every day." Ji-woo's fingernails were bitten down past the quick. She noticed Maya noticing and closed her hand. "Who reads it?" "Mr. Seo Kwang-shik, every Friday. A beat. Sometimes Miss Hye-jin. She takes the photographs for the insurance file." "Photographs of the binder?" "Of the pages." "Yes." Ji-woo's chin came up half an inch, defensive. "It is normal." "Sure," Maya said, and let it go, and did not let it go. In the stairwell, out of camera line, Maya stopped and called Gloria. 3 rings. Her sister picked up mid-sentence, the way she always did, a laugh already loaded so nobody would ask the real question. "Girl, why are you awake?" "Which card?" "Maya." "Which card, Glow?" A pause with a television in it. "The one with the 1200 limit. It's fine. I moved a shift." "You already moved a shift." "You moved 2. Then I moved 3. Gloria's voice did the thing it did. Bright, wide, warm as a kitchen. "Daddy's good. He ate the whole thing yesterday, the whole plate. I'm telling you, the man is a machine. The 30th is in 9 days. I know what day it is." "I signed something," Maya said. The television went quiet. Somebody had muted it. "Signed what?" "A contract, 6 months, 18 a month." 18,000. She heard her sister sit down. She heard the chair. "Maya, what kind of house pays that?" Maya looked up the stairwell at a camera in the corner of the ceiling with a small, unblinking red eye. "The kind that has a gate," she said. "I'll wire you Friday. Don't move another shift. Baby, don't move another shift." She hung up before Gloria could get her name out again, because Gloria said her name like their mother had, and Maya had exactly 1 hour with a patient who threw glass, and she needed her hands steady. She came out of the stairwell. Ji-woo was exactly where she'd left her, holding the binder, pretending very hard to read a page she'd written herself. They walked. Ji-woo talked the way frightened people talk, in bursts of procedure. He wakes at 5. He does not sleep after 3. He does not eat breakfast unless someone stays in the room, so I stay in the room. He does not. She stopped herself. He is quiet. He got a nickname out of it, I heard. Joyonghan Bun. Ji-woo's mouth barely moved. The quiet one. Before the accident, it meant something else. What did it mean before? The nurse looked at the floor. It meant that when he stopped talking, someone had already been decided about. They reached room 4. Ji-woo stopped 6 feet short of it, the way you stop short of a dog you know. "Doctor!" Her voice dropped. "You should know 4 people were told the route that night." Maya turned. What route? But a door had opened somewhere behind them, and Ji-woo was already stepping back, already smoothing her cardigan, already becoming a woman who had said nothing at all. Do-shik came down the hallway with his hands loose at his sides. 60 minutes, he said. "So I've been told twice now." He reached past her and opened the door. The room was the size of an apartment and had almost nothing in it. Bed, bar, window running the whole east wall, a low table with a glass of water sweating a ring into the wood. Seo Tae-hyun sat in a matte carbon fiber wheelchair with his back to her, facing the river. Even seated, The scale of him registered wrong for the chair. Shoulders wide enough to make the frame look like a toy. Forearms bare where the navy shirt was folded below the elbows. The fabric pulled tight across a back that 8 months of sitting had thinned into something leaner and somehow harder. Deep black hair cut short at the sides, swept back on top, and running down the left side of his neck, disappearing under the collar, a black koi carp in traditional linework, the tail vanishing where the shirt began. He did not turn around. Maya set the lunch tin on the table. She took the recorder out of her coat pocket, pressed the button, and stated it out loud the way she'd stated it 10,000 times. Session 1. Dr. Maya Bennett, patient Seo Tae-hyun, 702. Turn that off. His voice was low, and it arrived without warning, and it did not go up at the end. It's in my contract, Maya said. Your uncle signed it 40 minutes ago. My uncle signs things. So do I. She crossed the room and stopped where she could see his profile. The heavy jaw, the straight nose, the eyes that were black and flat and absolutely fixed on the water. Dr. Bennett, I'm your new physical therapist. You're my new decoration. That's what the contract says. Now, he turned his head, only his head, and Maya understood, suddenly, why Hyejin had said, "Stand to the side." Because being looked at directly by this man was a physical event, like a door closing in a room with no windows. You read the contract, he said. All 22 pages, plus the NDA. Nobody reads the NDA, then nobody should sign it. Something happened in his face. It lasted less than half a second, and it was gone before she could name it. How much are they paying you? He asked. 18. A week? A month. That's insulting. That's my sister's rent for 11 months, Maya said, and my father's collection notices, and it's more than I've ever been offered by anybody in my life, so let's not do the part where you decide what's insulting on my behalf. The room went still. Taehyun's hand moved to the wheel rim. He turned the chair a quarter, slow, until he was facing her fully, and the light off the river caught the edge of the tattoo. They told you the rules, he said. They told me you throw things. That's not a rule. That's a fact. He tilted his head an inch. The rule is that you don't touch my legs below the knee. Nothing there. Jiwoo learned it. The one before her learned it. You'll learn it. Maya crouched. Not close. 3 feet out, forearms on her thighs, so that her eyes came level with his and stayed there. Why below the knee? Because there's nothing there. Then it wouldn't bother you. For 1 full second, she counted it. She always counted. Seo Tae-hyun did not have an answer. Then his hand left the wheel rim, found the glass on the table, and closed around it. Maya watched his knuckles go pale. You have 54 minutes left, he said. Spend them by the door. Maya stayed crouched. Her knees were going to complain later, and she'd deal with it later. Can I tell you what I actually do? She said, not the contract version. The glass stayed in his hand. I map. 4 sessions, sometimes 6. I go inch by inch from the neck down, and I write what answers and what doesn't. That's it. Nobody promises anybody anything. Nobody says the word walk. She held his eyes. But I'm not going to spend 6 months rubbing a man's shoulders and calling it medicine so his family can photograph it. Why not? Because I'd know. Taehyun's thumb slid once along the rim of the glass. There was a woman before you, he said. American. Very kind. She held my ankle for 10 weeks and told me she felt something. Did she? No. His head tilted a fraction. She wanted me to feel something. So she felt it for me. That is not kindness. That is theft. Agreed. The word landed harder than any argument would have. I don't guess, Maya said. I test. And when it's nothing, I write nothing, and I say nothing. to your face, and you can hate me for it on your own schedule. Outside, a boat moved on the river, slow, dragging its wake behind it. Neither of them looked at it. 52 minutes, Taehyun said. Then start the clock over, Maya said, because I haven't touched you yet. And that was when his hand came off the table. The glass left his hand before Maya finished her sentence. It went past her ear, close enough that she felt the air move. It hit the wall behind her, 3 feet left of the door frame, and burst. Water first, then the sound. A hard, flat crack that filled the room and then stopped. Maya stayed where she was, crouched, weight on the balls of her feet. She looked at the wall, then at the floor. Then she did the math out loud, because she wanted him to hear her doing it. Left-handed throw, waist height, you aimed 18 inches wide. She turned her head back to him. That's control. Congratulations. Taehyun's jaw moved once. Down the hall, the door handle rattled. Do-shik's voice came through the wood, 2 words in Korean, sharp. Maya was already moving. She crossed the room, reached the door, and turned the deadbolt. Locked. She heard Do-shik hit the door with the flat of his hand, once, twice, the frame jumping in its housing. Then Ji-woo's voice, hi, saying something fast. Then nothing. Maya put her back to the door and looked at the man in the chair. Open it, Taehyun said. No. He'll break it. Then he breaks it. She stepped over the wet patch on the floor. Her sneakers left 2 clean prints going away from the glass. You've got 51 minutes and a bodyguard outside, who will spend all of them telling your uncle you had a bad morning. I'd rather he tell him nothing. Something changed in the black eyes. Not softening. Recalculation. You think I threw it to scare you? He said. I think you threw it because I said something and you didn't have an answer. Maya set her bag down on the low table beside the lunch tin, unzipped it, and took out a pair of nitrile gloves. Snap, snap. You'll notice I'm still here. He watched her hands. The recorder sat where she'd left it, red light steady. She didn't turn it off. Maya knelt beside the wheelchair, close enough that her shoulder was level with the armrest, and she did the one thing nobody in that house had done in 8 months. She looked at his feet. Black socks, Italian shoes, laced, polished, worn by a man who had not walked in them. She noted the way the left foot sat, heel dropped, toes angled slightly inward, the ankle carrying tension it had no business carrying if there was nothing below the knee. You have a plantar flexion contracture starting, she said. Left side. Nobody's been ranging you. There's nothing to range. Then it wouldn't tighten. She looked up. Dead tissue doesn't pull, it slackens. Yours is pulling. His hand closed on the armrest. Behind her, the door thumped again. A key in the lock. Maya had already flipped the second bolt, the manual one at the top, the one Kwang-shik's people had installed for a patient who might need privacy and had probably never used it. The key turned and caught and turned back. Dr. Bennett, Do-shik, through the wood, in English now, opened the door. Maya raised her voice without turning her head. Sessions in progress. 60 minutes. Mr. CO was very specific. Silence. Then boots moving away. Not far, just far enough. Taehyun exhaled through his nose. It was almost nothing. It was the closest thing to amusement that room had heard since February. You'll be gone by lunch, he said. Probably. Maya pulled the low ottoman over with one foot and sat on it, dead level with him. No looking down. So let's not waste it. She reached for his left shoe. Stop. Her hand stopped. 2 inches off the leather. Nothing below the knee, he said. I told you the rule. You did. Maya kept her hand exactly where it was. And I'm going to ask you for one thing. Once. And if you say no, I'll spend the rest of the hour on your shoulders, and I won't bring it up again today. Ask. 90 seconds. Both shoes off, I don't touch anything else. You keep your eyes on the river if you want. Why? Because your uncle has a binder with 8 months of the word unchanged in it, Maya said, and I want to know if the binder is lying. The room went very still. Taehyun looked at her for a long moment. In the corridor, a phone rang once and was silenced. Down on the river, a barge pushed water, and the sound of it came up through the glass like a low breath. 90 seconds, he said. Maya moved before he could revise it. The laces came loose fast, her fingers working the knots, the shoe sliding off the heel. She set it upright beside the chair. The second shoe took less time. Then the socks. She rolled them down instead of pulling, because pulling drags skin, and skin that hasn't moved in 8 months is skin you do not drag. His feet were pale, not gray, pale with visible capillary color at the arch, and the nails were trimmed short by somebody who cared about how it looked. Maya put her thumbs on the plantar surface of his right foot and pressed once, medium, flat. Nothing. She moved to the heel. Nothing. Lateral border. Nothing. She watched his face, not his foot, because faces lie slower than people think. Nothing. 40 seconds, Taehyun said. Maya switched feet. Left heel. Nothing. Left ball. Nothing. And then she put the pad of her thumb into the medial arch, deep, right into the soft belly of it, the spot where the plantar fascia crosses over the abductor hallucis, and she drove it in with her whole shoulder behind it. His head snapped. Not far, maybe 2 inches. A quarter turned toward her, involuntary, the neck moving before the man could stop it, the tattoo on the left side of it sliding under the collar with the motion. Maya didn't move her thumb. Say it, she said. Taehyun's mouth opened, closed. She held the pressure. 3 seconds. 4. Seo Taehyun, say what you just felt. Nothing. His voice came out wrong, sanded. Your head turned. Reflex. Reflexes don't route through the neck. Maya eased off, then pressed again. Same spot, same force. And this time she watched the hand on the armrest instead of the face. And the hand jumped. Fingers spreading, then clamping. Knuckles going white against carbon fiber. There it is again. Stop. She stopped. She sat back on the ottoman with her gloved hands on her knees, and she let the silence do the work because she had 11 years of learning that the second after is worth more than the minute before. Taehyun stared at the river. How long? Maya said. He didn't answer. Not how long since the surgery. How long have you been feeling it? The barge sound faded downstream. Somewhere below them, a door closed in the building, and the closing carried through the structure the way sound does in houses built out of stone and money. March, he said. Maya's breath went out of her in one piece. March. Which meant the American therapist who left in March had spent 10 weeks holding his ankle, which meant he had felt something under her hands and let her walk out the front gate, believing she'd wasted her time. You let her leave, Maya said. She talked. To who? To everyone. Taehyun turned his head, voluntarily this time, all the way, and it was the first time that morning he'd given her his full face. She told the nurse. The nurse writes in a book. The book goes to my uncle every Friday. Maya sat with that. You want me to lie in the binder, she said. I want you to do nothing in the binder. His voice dropped, and it dropped in a way that made her lean in without deciding to. Han Ji-woo takes my vitals at 6 in the morning and 8 at night. She writes what she sees. She has never seen anything. Keep it that way. She'll see the arch bruise if I go that hard again. Then go somewhere she doesn't look. Maya's mouth went dry, and it had nothing to do with fear, because he had answered too fast. Because a man who has spent 8 months believing he is furniture does not have a ready opinion about which parts of his body a nurse examines. That answer had been sitting in his mouth for months, chewed soft, waiting. You've thought about this, she said. Every day since March. And you didn't call a doctor. I have 4 doctors. He let that land. 3 of them are paid by the man who signs your contract. Maya peeled the gloves off, slow, and folded them into her palm. Say the 4th one. There is no 4th one. Taehyun's eyes flicked to the recorder on the table, the red light. There's a woman on a 6-month term who read the whole NDA before she signed it. The corridor stayed quiet. That was worse than the banging. Maya stood, went to the wall, and crouched over the broken glass. She picked the pieces up one at a time, big ones first, and set them in the empty lunch tin lid. It made a small sound each time. It gave her hands something to do, while her head ran the numbers she did not want to run. 18,000 a month, 6 months, 108, against 406. She wasn't going to get there. She had known that when she signed. She had signed anyway, because 108 was the difference between her father in a facility and her father in Gloria's second bedroom, and because Gloria had traded 3 shifts already this month. And now the man in the chair was offering her something that was not money. If I do this, Maya said, still crouched, and your uncle finds out before you're ready, the NDA turns me into a criminal. Not a bad employee, a criminal. Intent to manipulate or exploit the patient. 6 pages of it. Yes. You're not going to tell me it won't happen. It will probably happen. Maya laughed. 1 syllable, no humor in it, out before she could stop it. She dropped the last shard into the lid. Chungmai, she said it under her breath, the word she'd picked up in 11 years of Korean colleagues, and she said it the way you say it when a man hands you a live wire and calls it a job offer. Taehyun's eyebrow moved a 1/4 inch. You speak it. Badly. She stood and set the lid on the table. Enough to know when a room is talking about me. This house talks about you constantly. I'll survive it. Maya checked her watch. You have 38 minutes, and I intend to use all of them. Take your watch off. Why? Because I'm going to work your shoulders and your thoracic extensors, and I need the strap out of the way. And because if your uncle asks Doshik what happened in here, Doshik gets to say he heard a therapist working on a back, which is cosmetic, which is in the contract. Something moved across his face that she would not have called a smile in a report. He unclasped the watch and set it on the arm of the chair. Maya moved behind him. She put her hands on his shoulders, thumbs finding the upper trapezius, and she pressed in and felt 8 months of a man holding himself upright with muscle that was never designed to be the only thing holding him upright. When did you last sleep more than 4 hours? She said. August. That's not a joke. No. She worked down, levator, rhomboids. Her thumbs found a band along the right scapula, so tight it moved like rope, and when she leaned into it, his whole back tried to get away from her and couldn't. Breathe out through it. I'm breathing. You're bracing. Maya kept the pressure. Out. Long. He exhaled. The rope softened by maybe 10%, and Maya took the 10% and went in another 1/2 inch, and Taehyun made a sound through his teeth that was not a word in any language. There we go. You enjoy this. I enjoy tissue that answers. She moved to the left side. Your uncle told me 2 surgeons signed the complete injury finding and 1 agreed. That's an odd way to say 3. The muscle under her hands went hard again. He said that to you. Word for word. I write things down. Maya's hands stopped. Which one didn't sign? Taehyun took a long time. Park Seung-ho, he said. Seoul National. He operated on me the first time. He asked for a repeat MRI in November. Did he get it? He was removed from my case in October. Maya's palms were flat on his back, and she felt his heart rate come up under them, and she noted it the way she'd note anything else. Measurement, no comment. Removed by who? The family. That's not a name. No, Taehyun said. It isn't. Maya let go of him and came around the chair, and she sat back down on the ottoman so that he had to look at her. I'm going to say a sentence, she said, and then I'm going to shut up about it for 6 months, if you want me to. Ready? He waited. Nobody removes the surgeon who wants a second MRI, unless somebody is afraid of what the second MRI says. The room held it. Down the hall, the boots came back. 2 sets this time, and a third, slower, with a hard tap between the steps. A cane on stone, once every second step, coming up the corridor toward the only door on it. Taehyun heard it before Maya did. She saw him hear it, his face closed like a shop at night, everything folding in, until what was left was the man Ji-woo had a nickname for. Put my shoes on, he said. Maya was already reaching. Socks first, rolled up over the heel, and she did it fast, and she did it right. Left shoe, right shoe, laces. She pulled them into the same double knot she'd found them in, because a man like Kwang-shik counts knots. The cane was 15 feet out. Watch, Maya said. Taehyun clasped it back on his wrist. She grabbed the lid of broken glass, dumped it into her bag, zipped the bag, and stood with the towel from her kit in her hands, and by the time the deadbolt was being tested from the other side, she was standing behind the wheelchair, with both thumbs in his shoulders, and her voice pitched exactly loud enough to carry through wood. And that's the range we'll aim to hold. Bring your chin down. Good. The key went in. Then the top bolt held it, and there was a pause, and Maya let the pause go on for 3 full seconds before she crossed the room and slid it open herself. Seo Kwang-shik filled the doorway. Behind him, Do-shik. Behind Do-shik, Ji-woo, holding the binder against her chest with both arms. Kwang-shik's eyes went past Maya, around the room, to the wet mark on the wall. There was a noise, he said. There was. Maya stepped back to let him see all of it. Your nephew dropped a glass. I locked the door because I didn't want anyone walking into a floor full of it barefoot. She held up the bag. It's in here. I'll bin it downstairs. Kwang-shik's cane came down once on the threshold. Do-shik says you refuse to open. Do-shik is correct. Maya met the small hooded eyes behind the gold rims, and she did not blink, and she did not smile. You gave me 60 minutes. You said 60, not 61. If I stop every time a man knocks, you're paying $18,000 a month for a woman who answers doors. Behind her, from the chair, Taehyun said nothing at all. The clock on the wall said 7:51. Kwang-shik looked at it, and Maya watched him do the arithmetic, and she watched him decide that a woman who defended his own rule back at him was, for the moment, an asset. 11 minutes, he said. 11 minutes. He turned to go, then he stopped, and he looked at his nephew's feet, at the polished shoes, laced, the double knots sitting perfectly square. Han, he said, without turning his head, vitals at 8. As always. Ji-woo said yes in Korean, twice. The door closed. The cane went back down the corridor. Maya stood with her hand still on the frame until the sound was gone. Then she turned around. Taehyun was looking at the river again, but his left hand had come off the armrest and was resting flat on his thigh, low, just above the knee, and his index finger was moving, slow, deliberate, back and forth across the fabric. He was checking. 11 minutes, Maya said, and pulled the ottoman back into place. Sit up. We're doing thoracic rotation, and you're going to hate it. You lied to him. I told him a glass broke, and I put it in a bag. She sat. Every word of that is on the recording. Taehyun turned his head. 2 in the morning, he said. Maya stopped. Ji-woo takes vitals at 8 and sleeps in the east wing. Do-shik walks the floor at midnight and again at 4. He said it flat, the way you say a thing you have timed. 2 in the morning, This room. Nobody looks. Her heart went hard in her chest. Once. That's not in the contract. No, Taehyun said. It isn't. And down the corridor, at exactly 8 o'clock, Han Ji-woo's clogs came toward the door with the binder that had said the same word for 241 days. Ji-woo took the vitals in 4 minutes flat, and Maya watched every second of it like a woman counting cards. Blood pressure cuff, pulse, temperature under the tongue, oxygen clip on the index finger. The right one, always the right one, because Ji-woo was right-handed and the chair sat with its right side toward the window. She wrote in the binder standing up, elbow braced against her own ribs, pen moving in the same 6 places it had moved for 241 days. She never once looked at his feet. Maya filed it the way she filed a gate deviation, silent, permanent, useful later. Anything to report, doctor? Ji-woo asked, and her voice went up at the end like she was apologizing for the question. Shoulder work, passive range. He tolerated it. Tolerated, Ji-woo repeated, writing it. The little gold cross at her throat swung once and settled. Taehyun watched the pen, not the woman, the pen. When the clogs went back down the corridor, Maya turned the recorder off with her thumb and said, She writes with her body turned away from you. She's been trained. By who? He looked at the door. That was the whole answer. The house went quiet at 11. Maya learned that lying on top of the covers in the guest suite on the 3rd floor with her shoes on, listening to a building the size of a hotel exhale. Doors. A generator somewhere below the garden. The river doing whatever the Han does at night. At midnight, boots. Do-shik, west wing, 72 steps. A pause at the stairwell, 72 steps back. She counted them twice to be sure the number was a number and not a mood. At 1:50, she took off her shoes and carried them. Room 4's door was unlocked. He was awake in the dark with the wheelchair turned to face the entry, and that told her he'd been facing it for a while. 90 minutes, he said. Do-shik comes back at 4. I only need 40. She didn't turn on the overhead. She used the small lamp by the bookshelf and angled it at the wall, so what came back was bounce, not beam. Then she pulled the poof, sat, and put her hands on his knees. Rules, she said. You don't tell me what you feel until I ask. You tell me the truth even when the truth is nothing. And if you lie to protect my feelings, I walk out of this house Friday with the money, and you can hire another decoration. Oiga omne. Almost a laugh. Almost. Say it in English if you want me to be insulted properly. I said it's unbelievable. He rolled his sleeves down, then up again, restless. You threaten a man in his own room. I'm not threatening. I'm scheduling. She started high. Quadriceps, both sides, 10 minutes of pure honest work. Long strokes along the muscle belly, thumbs finding the sheath, breaking down 8 months of tissue that had been sitting still and turning to felt. It was not gentle. Rehab that feels nice is rehab that does nothing. By minute 6, his jaw had set, and his breathing had changed shape. You feel that. Pressure, not pain. Where does the pressure stop? He was quiet a long time. 2 hands above the knee. She marked it, not on paper. On the inside of her own wrist, in pen, a small number 2 and the letter L. Paper could be photographed, skin washed off. Then she went below the knee. The left medial arch answered first, the way it had answered at 7 in the morning, head turning, involuntary, a body telling on itself. But at 2:20, something else happened, and Maya felt it before she understood it. Her palm was flat on his left quadriceps, and under it, the muscle jumped. Not a twitch, a contraction. Small, ugly, uncoordinated, gone in half a second. She lifted her hand. Do that again, she said. Do what? You know what? I didn't do anything. Then your leg did it without asking you. She put her palm back. Push down, into my hand. Don't move your hips, don't lean, don't cheat with your back. Just think about pushing. I've done this. 4 doctors, 11 months. 4 doctors were being paid to get a specific answer. Push. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And then, on the 4th try, with his eyes shut and the tendons standing up in his neck, the muscle under her hand tightened and held for maybe a full second before it let go. Maya sat back on her heels. Taehyun's hands were flat on the armrests. He was staring at his own thigh like it had spoken Korean to him in a stranger's voice. "Say it," he said. "No. Say it. I'm not going to give you a word you can throw at me in 6 weeks when I'm wrong." She wiped her hands on her thigh. "I'll give you what I have. 2 of your muscle groups above the knee are responding to intentional command. 1 point below the knee has sensation. That is not a complete lesion. Whatever the paper says." "The paper says complete. The paper says what 3 men with your uncle's money on their tax return say it says." The lamp buzzed. Down in the garden, a sprinkler head clicked on and clicked off. "Do it again," he said. "No. Muscle that hasn't fired in 8 months tears like wet paper. You get 4 attempts a night, and you already used them. I'll pay you. You'll pay me $18,000 a month to not damage you." She stood, and her knees popped in the quiet, and she didn't care. 2 a.m. Tomorrow, same door. At the door she stopped with her hand on the deadbolt. "One more thing, your water glass. What about it? You threw it left-handed and you missed me by 18 inches on purpose." She turned the bolt slow so it wouldn't clack. 8 months of people telling you your body doesn't work, and you still aimed. Hold on to that. It's the only clinical data I trust in this house. She was 3 steps into the corridor when she heard the chair move behind the door. A quarter turn, back toward the window, a man rearranging himself into the shape everyone expected to find in the morning. She came back the next night, and the night after, and the night after that. Wednesday she brought a towel roll and worked the plantar fascia until his left foot came out of 10 degrees of plantar flexion and sat almost neutral. Thursday, he held the quadriceps contraction for 2 seconds and swore in 3 syllables she pretended not to understand. Friday, she got the right leg to answer. Weaker, later, only once, and then made him stop, and made him drink water, and made him sit with it. And every single morning at 6, and again at 8 in the pantomime she performed for the corridor, Han Ji-woo came in with the binder and wrote the same word in the same column. Pyeonalpsum. No change. Maya read that column upside down every day and let it be written. That was the part nobody warns you about. Not the work, the lying. Standing there with your face arranged while a woman documents a corpse who is currently, quietly, learning to fire a muscle at 2 in the morning. You could put it in, Ji-woo said on the 4th morning, out of nowhere, cuff still on his arm. Maya's chin came up half an inch. Put what in? Anything. Ji-woo pressed the release valve. The cuff sighed. You do 60 minutes with him and I write no change. You must think I'm... She stopped, wrote. It's just what's in the column. Who reads the column? Mr. CO, every Friday, 10 o'clock. She capped the pen. Miss Hee-jin photographs the pages for the insurance file. Fridays too, after. How long does it take him? 9 minutes. Ji-woo said it instantly. The way you say a thing you have timed on purpose and never told anyone you timed. He reads the last column, only the last column. He turns the pages from the back. He doesn't read the numbers. He reads the word. Maya let that sit in the room and rot a little. And your sister-in-law. She corrected herself before Ji-woo could. Miss Hee-jin. She photographs which pages? All of them, every page since the last Friday. Ji-woo pulled the cuff free and coiled it around her hand, tight, tighter. She uses the window light by the door. It takes 11 minutes. I stand outside. Both of them on the same day. They've always done it on the same day. And Jiwoo looked, for a second, like a woman who had just heard her own sentence out loud for the first time. Taehyun said nothing through any of it. He looked out at the river with his hands loose on the armrests and let the two women talk over his body like he was furniture. And Maya understood that he had been doing exactly this for 8 months and had gotten very, very good at it. The 10th night, she asked. They were 40 minutes in. He'd gotten 4 seconds out of the left quad, and she'd made him stop at 3 attempts because his hands had started shaking, which is a thing that happens when a nervous system that's been asleep suddenly gets asked to work overtime. Tell me about the route, Maya said. His head came around. Jiwoo said 4 people knew it, the night it happened. Maya kept her hands moving, calf, ankle, steady, unbothered, a woman doing a job. She said it, and then she looked like she'd swallowed a wasp. That was 11 days ago, and she hasn't said another word about it, and neither have you. You listen to nurses. I listen to everyone. It's cheaper than surveillance. She set his heel down. 4 people. Who? He was quiet so long she thought he'd shut it down. 23rd of August, he said. 11:40 at night. I was coming back from Incheon. The company plane lands. The car takes the expressway. 40 minutes, always the same. That night, the driver came off at Banghwa and took the river road. Why? Construction notice, lane closure on the expressway. He turned his watch a quarter turn on his wrist. There was no construction. Who chose the road? The driver was told, by dispatch. Dispatch was told by the office. He lifted 2 fingers off the armrest. 4 people knew the car would be on the river road that night. My driver, my secretary, my sister, and my uncle. Maya kept her breathing where it was. 11 years of not reacting in front of patients is a skill, and she had never once been so grateful for it. Where's the driver now? Dead, same night. 2 rounds through the windshield. Flat. Absolutely flat. The men who did it were in a stolen van, and the van burned in Gimpo. Police found nothing. My uncle paid for the driver's funeral. Very generous, very public. Your secretary? Retired in September. To Jeju. She was 51. He turned the watch back. She bought a house. And your sister? Something moved across his face, and it was not grief. My sister screamed at the hospital for 6 hours, he said. Everyone saw, everyone wrote about it. She told a magazine she would give her legs to me if the doctors would take them. He looked at Maya for the first time in the whole conversation. She has not been in this room since October. Since October. October 22nd. Maya's hands stopped. Park Sing-ho was removed in October. The lamp hummed. Down the hall, the ice machine dropped a load. Yes, Taehyun said. Which day? I don't know which day. Find out. His eyebrows moved a millimeter. You give orders now. I give homework. She pulled his sock back on, rolled it, smoothed it. You have 4 doctors. 3 of them belong to your uncle. The 4th one, who is he? An anesthesiologist. From the 2nd revision. He signs nothing and comes when I call. Can he order an MRI? He can order an MRI. Getting me into the machine is a different problem. He gestured, small, at the door, the corridor, the whole house. I don't move without 11 men knowing. 11 men, Maya repeated. Who pays them? Yoon Do-shik pays them. My uncle pays Yoon Do-shik. Since when? He thought about it, and the thinking took longer than it should have, and that was the answer too. Since September, he said. So the man who guards your door started working for your uncle 3 weeks after somebody put 2 rounds through your driver's windshield on a road 4 people knew about. She kept her voice at the level of a woman reading a grocery list. Say it back to me. I've said it to myself every night since March. March, not August. In August, I was unconscious. In November, I was learning to sit up. His fingers spread on the armrest, then closed. In March, my foot answered a stranger's hand, and I understood I had been sold something. Then we don't move. Maya stood and pushed the poof back against the wall with her foot, exactly where it lived, because a room that looks touched is a room that gets searched. We build, quietly, and when there's something worth putting on film, we find a way into the machine. And until then, Jaiwoo writes, no change, and your uncle reads it on Friday at 10, and your sister photographs it at 11, and everybody in this house sleeps like a baby. He almost smiled. It didn't reach anything. You understand what you're inside of, he said. I understand I'm being paid $18,000 a month to be blind. That's a lot of money for blind. She picked up her shoes. In America, when somebody pays you that much not to look, it's because looking is worth more. 3:40 in the morning, she went down the service stair in socks, and she was 2 flights down when she smelled cigarette smoke. Hae-jin was standing at the landing window in a coat over something silk, ash falling into a paper cup she was holding at her hip. Maya kept walking. There was no version of turning around that wasn't worse. The famous doctor, Hae-jin said, in English, without turning. Walking around my house at 3:40. Ah. Hae-jin tapped the cigarette. So you check the clock. I check everything, that's the job. Hae-jin turned then, and looked at Maya's socks, and looked at the shoes in Maya's hand, and Maya watched a very intelligent woman do arithmetic and get an answer. He doesn't sleep, Hae-jin said. He hasn't slept since August. Did he tell you that? His chart tells me that. His chart. She laughed once, no sound in it. Do you know what I do at 4 in the morning, doctor? I sit in the car outside this house, and I don't come in, for 8 months. The cup came up, ash went in. Everyone thinks that's guilt. Is it? Hae-jin looked at her for a long moment. You're going to lose this job, she said, almost kindly. I want you to know it's not personal. Nothing in this family is personal. It's just that things which change are inconvenient, and my brother is a thing that isn't allowed to change. She dropped the cigarette in the cup and walked up the stairs past Maya, and the smell of smoke and champagne went with her. 4 steps up, she stopped. Doctor, the therapist before you. Hae-jin's voice came down flat over the rail. She also walked at night. Then the door at the top of the stair closed, and the stairwell was just a stairwell again. Maya stood on the landing until her pulse came back down. Then she did the math she'd been avoiding for 11 days. The American therapist had walked at night too. The American therapist had felt something and told the nurse, and the nurse had written it, and the book had gone to the uncle on a Friday at 10 o'clock, and by the 2nd week of March, the American therapist had been on a plane. 12 days. That was the gap between the day a woman put her hands on So Tae-hyun's ankle and the day she stopped existing in this house. Maya was on day 12. Then she took out her phone and, standing in the dark on the service stair of a house owned by people who had almost certainly killed a driver in August, she opened the banking app and moved $1,100 to Silver Spring, Maryland, because it was Thursday night in Seoul, and that made it Thursday morning at home, and rent was due on the 30th, and Gloria had traded 3 shifts. The transfer cleared at 3:47. The message came back at 3:51. Got it. You okay? Maya typed, yes, and looked at it, and deleted it, and typed, ask me Friday, instead, and sent that. Friday at 10 o'clock, Kwang-shik read the binder in the small library with the door open, and Maya was made to stand in the corridor while he did it, which was theater, and she knew it was theater, and she stood there anyway with her hands behind her back for 9 minutes. No change, he said when he was done. No, sir. 12 sessions. He closed the binder. The cane came off the arm of the chair. You are an expensive kind of nothing. That's what Clause 4 asked for. Clause 4 asked for maintenance. Clause 4 asked for cosmetic care and forbade me from promising recovery. She kept her hands where they were. 12 sessions of skin integrity, joint range, and postural work. His sacrum is clean. In April, that's not nothing, sir. That's the difference between a man in a chair and a man in a hospital bed. The hooded eyes came up. It was the first time she'd seen him look at her like she was a person and not a line item, and it was not an improvement. You quote my contract to me, he said, more than my lawyers do. I read it more carefully than they did. He stood. The jade ring caught the window. Friday next week, I want the physician's note as well, not only the nurse's. Of course. And, doctor. At the door. The hallway camera outside room 4 has been out of service. It's being repaired Monday. He left. Maya stood alone in the corridor and counted, slowly, to 10. Then she counted the 72 steps of the West Wing in her head and worked out how many of them a repaired camera would make irrelevant. Monday, 60 hours, 3 more nights of 2 a.m., and after that, every minute in room 4 would be a file somebody else owned. Then she went upstairs, past the alcove where the little dome camera had been dark since the day she arrived, and she looked up at it, and she was still looking at it when Han Ji-woo came around the corner with the binder against her chest and stopped dead. The nurse's face went the color of the walls. Doctor, she said, I need to. And then she heard the cane on the stairs behind her, and she turned and walked the other way, fast, clogs slapping, and left Maya standing under a camera that was going to start working again in 72 hours. Maya went after her. Not fast. Fast makes noise, and noise in that house had a way of arriving at the little library 2 floors down before the person did. She walked the way a woman walks when she has a clipboard and a reason, shoulders level, sneakers quiet on the runner, and she turned the corner into the east wing, 11 seconds behind a pair of clogs that had already stopped slapping. The linen room door stood open 2 inches. Inside, a strip light buzzed over a folding table stacked with laundered scrub sets. Han Ji-woo had the binder flat on the table, spine broken open, and she was holding her phone above it with both hands, elbows locked, the way people hold a phone when the picture matters more than the pose. The shutter sound was off. Maya watched the screen flash white against the nurse's glasses. 1 page, turn. Another page, turn. Not the last column, the whole spread. Every entry, front and back. That's not the window light, Maya said. Jiwoo's arms came down so hard the phone cracked against the table edge. She turned with her back against the folding table, palms flat behind her, and her chin went up in a way that had nothing to do with courage. It was the move of a woman who had rehearsed being caught and had never picked what she'd say. Sister CO photographs on Fridays, Maya said. By the window, 11 minutes. You wait in the hall. Yes, it's Friday. It's 10:20. You're in a linen room. The strip light buzzed. Somewhere below them, a vacuum started up and stopped. Doctor, how long have you been taking your own set? Jiwoo swallowed. The gold cross at her throat moved. Since November. November. Maya kept her face exactly where it was, but the number went into her like a nail. Park Sung-ho asked for a second MRI in November. Park Sung-ho had already been removed in October. Somebody in this house had started making private copies of a book of lies 1 month after the surgeon who might have exposed it stopped existing on the payroll. Show me the phone. I can't. Then close the door. Jiwoo closed the door. She did it with 2 hands, easing the latch home like the latch could tell on her, and then she stood with her back to it and looked at the floor between them and said nothing for 4 full seconds. Maya set her own clipboard on the stack of scrubs. I'm going to say some things, she said. You don't have to answer any of them. You just have to not walk out. The nurse's chewed fingernails went to the hem of her white cardigan and stayed there. 241 days of the same 2 words, Maya said. You wrote all of them. Your handwriting changes across the year. It gets tighter around February. It gets loose again in April. That's a person under pressure, not a person copying. You watched him for 8 months and you wrote, Pyeonhwa opsum, and you never once looked at his feet. I check what I am told to check. By who? Jiwoo's mouth opened. The vacuum started up again downstairs. You started in his hospital room, Maya said. Seoul National. You were floor staff. Somebody moved you into this house and gave you a private salary, and you have been terrified since the first week. And you photograph a binder you already wrote yourself. Nobody does that unless they think one day somebody's going to say the binder never said what it said. The nurse's shoulders came down half an inch. That was the whole answer. I need to sit, Jiwoo said. There was one plastic chair. She took it. Maya crouched instead, forearms on her knees, low, under the other woman's eye line, the same position she used when she needed a patient to stop performing. 14 minutes ago you said you needed something, Maya said. Say it now. I need to leave this house. Then leave. I cannot. Jiwoo laughed once, and it came out wrong, high and dry. Doctor, you think I am kept here by a door. What are you kept here by? The nurse looked at the phone on the table. She looked at it long enough that Maya let the silence stretch, because 8 months of pressure was pushing on that woman's spine, and Maya had learned in 11 years that you never, ever fill that kind of gap with words. Money, Jiwoo said. Everyone's kept here by money. No. She shook her head, fast, twice. You are paid. There is a contract. Your name is on a paper, and their name is on a paper, and if they stop paying you, you can stand in front of a person and say, this is what they promised. I have nothing. Twice a month, money comes to my account. There is no contract. There is no paper. If tomorrow they say I was never paid, then I was never paid, and I am only a nurse who wrote lies for 8 months for no reason. Maya's pulse went up. She kept her voice flat. Twice a month. The 1st and the 16th. How much? More than the hospital. Jiwoo's fingers found the cross again. 4 times. For 8 months. For 8 months. Say the number. The nurse's jaw tightened. 2,800,001. Each time. Maya did the arithmetic in her head, and it landed heavy. 5.6 million a month to a floor nurse for the job of writing 2 words in a column. Nobody pays that for nursing. That's not a salary. That's a mouth being held shut, and somebody had been holding it shut with both hands since the week after a car went off the expressway at Bonghwa. Whose name is on the transfer? Jiwoo said nothing. Jiwoo. First time Maya had used it without the title, and the nurse's eyes came up. You have been photographing this binder for 6 months because some part of you already knows you're going to need to prove where the money came from. You didn't do that for nothing. Whose name? It is not a name, Jiwoo said. It is a company. The strip light buzzed. At first I thought, it is the sister. She said it almost apologetically. Everyone thinks it is the sister. She screams. She gives interviews. She photographs the pages. She is the one you can see. I thought, she is paying me to write nothing because she does not want him to walk. And in January I looked. Jiwoo pulled the phone off the table into her lap and held it there with both hands like a bird. The bank application shows the sender for the last 90 days. I looked because the amount changed by 401 one month, and I thought there was a mistake. There was no mistake. There was a name. Say it. Hansong Gunsul. She said it in Korean first and then in English, slowly, like the English made it real. Hansong Construction. Deposits from a corporate account. Not a person. Not Seo Hye-jin, a construction company. Maya stayed crouched. Her knees were screaming, and she stayed exactly where she was. The Seo Group doesn't build, she said. No. Shipping and logistics. Ports. That's the whole company. It's on the wall in the entrance hall in 3 languages. Yes. Then why does a nurse in a shipping family's house get paid by a construction firm? Ji-woo looked at her, and for the first time all morning, there was something in the woman's face that wasn't fear. It was closer to relief. The specific relief of a person who has been carrying a stone alone and has just watched somebody else pick up the other end of it. That, she said, is the question I have been afraid to ask out loud for 6 months. Downstairs, a door closed. Both of them stopped breathing. Nothing followed. Maya stood up. Her right knee popped and she ignored it. She had maybe 4 minutes before somebody wondered where the expensive kind of nothing had gone. Listen to me carefully, she said. Don't send me anything. Not a photo, not a message, not a screenshot. Nothing that travels. Then how? Paper. Maya picked her clipboard back up off the scrubs. You go into a branch. You ask a teller for a printed transaction record. You pay the fee. You take the paper. Paper doesn't ping anybody's phone. Paper doesn't sit on a server that a man with 11 security staff can pay someone to open. They watch the gate. They watch the gate for people carrying things in. Maya's voice dropped. You leave this house every second Sunday for church. You told me that on my first morning, standing in a hallway, because you were being polite. Nobody's ever once searched you going out. Ji-woo's mouth opened slightly. Sundays in 2 days, Maya said. There's a branch 2 blocks from a church in Mapo that opens for automated records at 9. How do you know that? Because I've been walking to that branch every Friday for 3 weeks to send my sister money. Maya let that land. I'm not clever. I'm just cheap, and I get paid in dollars. Something happened in the nurse's face. Not a smile, a crack in something. And then, Ji-woo said, I bring paper, and then what? I put it in a man's hand and he burns it, and I am the one who is finished. You don't put it in anyone's hand. Maya was already moving toward the door. You keep it, on you, not in a bag, not in a room, not in a locker that has a key that somebody else has a copy of, in a pocket that's on your body, and you keep that pocket on your body every hour that you are inside these walls. Ji-woo looked down. The white cardigan had 2 pockets, deep ones, the kind hospital staff live out of. There, Maya said. And I carry it until when? Until somebody in this house is stupid enough to ask the wrong question in front of witnesses. The nurse folded her arms across her stomach. You are very calm, she said, for someone who has been here 12 days. I'm counting too, Maya said. She had the handle when Ji-woo spoke again, and this time the voice had dropped so low the strip light almost covered it. Doctor, there is something else. Maya turned. The amount. Ji-woo's thumb moved over the phone case, back and forth, a tick. It does not start in September. Everyone thinks the money starts after the accident. The first deposit is not September. When? The 10th of August. Maya stood very still. 13 days before a car left the expressway at Bonghwa, because a dispatcher passed on a warning about roadwork that did not exist. 13 days before a driver took 2 rounds through a windshield, and a van got burned out in Gimpo, and a family paid publicly for a funeral. Somebody had been buying a nurse in this house almost 2 weeks before there was anything for a nurse in this house to lie about. You're sure of the date? I have the paper for August. Ji-woo said it quietly. I keep the papers. My mother taught me to keep papers. It is the only thing I have ever been good at. Where? In my room. Under the drawer. Not in the drawer, under it. Move it today, Maya said. Onto your body, before the camera in this corridor works again. Ji-woo's chin lifted. The camera does not work? Maya opened the door 6 inches, checked the hall, and closed it again. Her heart was going like a fist on a table, and her voice came out level, because 11 years of telling people things they did not want to hear had made her good at exactly one thing. "It gets repaired Monday," she said. "So does everything else about this arrangement. From next Friday, he wants a physician's note in that binder, not yours. Do you understand what that means for you? It means I am not needed. It means you're a witness with no job." Maya held her eye, which in this house is a different word. The nurse's hand went flat against her own stomach. Under the cardigan, under the mint scrubs, Maya watched a woman's breathing change from the top of the chest to somewhere lower, and she knew the exact second Jiwoo stopped being frightened of Maya and started being frightened of the correct thing. 2 days, Jiwoo said. 2 days. Sunday, 9 o'clock. Mapo. Printed. Stamped if they'll stamp it. All 12 months if the machine gives you 12, and if it only gives you 3, then 3 plus the August paper from under your drawer. "And you?" Jiwoo said. "What do you do while I do this?" Maya picked up the binder off the folding table and held it out flat on both palms, the way you hand someone something in Korea when you mean it. "I write in this," she said. "Exactly what you've been writing. Same 2 words, same column." Jiwoo stared at her. "You said the binder is lying." "It is. You want it to keep lying." "I want it to keep lying for 4 more days," Maya said. "Because the day that book says something new is the day a man 2 floors down knows there is something to take away from me." The nurse took the binder. Her hands were steadier than they had been 10 minutes earlier. "One more thing," Maya said. "When you go on Sunday, wear the cardigan you're wearing now. Not a coat, not a bag. Guards remember bags. They have seen this cardigan every day for 8 months. That's the point, a thing they've stopped seeing." Jiwoo pressed the binder against her chest with both arms. "You have done this before," she said. "I've watched families hide charts for 11 years. Maya's mouth went flat. "Usually it's a son hiding how bad his mother got. This is the first time it's been a whole company." "Doctor," she said, "why are you doing this? He threw a glass at you. He has thrown a glass at everyone. He missed by 18 inches with his good hand," Maya said. "People who want to hit you don't miss by 18 inches. She left first. That mattered. 2 women coming out of a linen room together on a Friday morning is a story, and 1 woman coming out of a linen room with a binder 4 minutes later is a nurse doing her job." The hallway was empty. The dead camera sat in its housing at the corner with its little light off, and Maya walked under it and did not look up at it, and went down 1 flight to the landing where the window faced the river. She stopped there and put both hands on the sill. Hansong Construction. Nobody in that family said the word construction. Not once in 12 days. Not in the contract, not in the 22 pages, not in the annexes, not in the framed corporate history in the entrance hall, with the photographs of container cranes going back to 1978. She had read all of it, because reading all of it was the only weapon she'd walked in with. But somebody had signed a warning about roadwork. Maya's hands went cold on the sill. "You do not invent construction on a stretch of expressway at 11:40 at night, unless you have somewhere to put the invention. You do not tell a dispatcher there's work at Bonghua, unless there's a company name that makes work at Bonghua boring. Roadwork needs a contractor. A contractor needs a company needs an account, and an account, once it exists and once it has a purpose, becomes the most convenient thing in the world, because from that day forward, every payment a careful man needs to make without his own name on it goes through the same pipe." The driver's family had been paid for a funeral, publicly, by Co. Kwang-shik. The secretary had retired to Jeju at 51 and bought a house. The nurse got 2,800,000 won on the 1st and the 16th from a builder that built nothing. Same pipe. Maya let out a breath and watched it not fog the glass, because it was April, and the sun was already hot on the river, and she stood there and made herself put the last piece in slowly instead of fast. Hae-jin photographed the binder. Everyone in the house believed Hae-jin owned the binder. The nurse believed it, Taehyun half believed it, and Kwang-shik had personally told Maya on day one that the sister took the pictures for the insurance file. 11 minutes at a window with a nurse waiting outside in the hall, in full view, every single Friday, for 8 months. That is not how you hide something. That is how you build a person to be blamed. A woman who screams in a hospital for 6 hours, gives an interview saying she'd give him her legs, and then photographs every page of a book that says he'll never move again. That woman is a shape. She's the shape people look at while the money moves somewhere else, and she had not walked into room 4 since the 22nd of October, and Maya suddenly understood that she had been reading that fact upside down for 2 days. She had been reading it as guilt. It might be avoidance. It might be a woman who had gone into a room in October, worked something out, and could not sit in front of her brother's face afterward. Behind her, the cane started on the stairs. Maya took her hands off the sill and turned with her clipboard against her hip and her face arranged into the particular blank that had gotten her through 12 days. Seo Kwang-shik came up 4 steps and stopped, one hand on the rail, Jade's signet catching the window light. "You are still here," he said. "Session log," Maya said. 12 sessions. You'll want it Friday, with the physician's note. He looked at the clipboard. He did not ask for it. His eyes went past her to the corridor she'd come from, the east wing, the linen room, the corner with the dead camera, and stayed there half a second longer than a man's eyes stay anywhere. "The nurse takes her lunch at 11, he said. "You should not need her before that." "I don't need her at all." "No," Kwang-shik said. "I imagine you do not." He came up the last 4 steps past her, and the cane went tap and stopped. "Dr. Bennett, on Monday the corridor camera will be functioning." "So, I heard. Then we will both be able to see what happens in that hallway at night." He did not turn around when he said it. It has been a great inconvenience, not being able to see. The cane started again, and the sound of it went away down the corridor toward room 4. Maya stood on the landing with her heart hammering and her face doing absolutely nothing, and she thought about a white cardigan with 2 deep pockets, and about a bank branch 2 blocks from a church in Mapo, and about the 10th of August. 60 hours, 3 nights, and one nurse walking out of a gate on Sunday morning, carrying the only piece of paper in Seoul that connected a man who built nothing to a man who was still in a chair. The summons came as a piece of paper slid under the door of Maya's room at 11:52 that same Friday morning, and the paper had a time on it and nothing else. 11:55, small library, 2nd floor, 3 minutes. Somebody had walked it up the stairs, bent down, pushed it through, and walked away without knocking, and Maya heard the footsteps leave before she heard them arrive. She picked it up, company letterhead, the CO crest, the shipping crest, the anchor and the 2 characters, printed on paper heavy enough to stand up on its own. Maya put her lab coat back on. She buttoned it. Then she pulled the sleeve of the coat down over her left wrist, where 2 letters and a number sat in ballpoint ink, and she checked in the mirror that the cuff covered it. The small library had 11 chairs, and they had moved 9 of them. The 9 were arranged in a curve facing a single chair at the front, and the single chair was not a chair for talking. It was a chair for standing in front of. Maya walked in at 11:54 and counted the room fast, because counting was what her hands did when they had nothing to hold. Seo Kwang-shik at the center, the cane hooked on the arm of his seat. 2 men in gray suits she had never seen, laptops closed on their knees, one of them with a phone face down on the table beside him. A woman in her 50s with a leather folio, pen already uncapped. Yoon Do-shik standing behind the curve, not sitting, hands crossed at his belt. Hye-jin sat at the far right end, one leg crossed over the other, looking at the window. And to the left of the empty front chair, angled slightly away from everyone, Seo Tae-hyun in the matte black wheelchair, hands flat on his thighs. He had not looked up when she came in. "Sit," Kwang-shik said. Maya stayed on her feet. "I'll stand." "You'll sit." He said it the way a man reads a number off a page. "This is a meeting of the family council. Minutes are being taken. Standing is theater, and it wastes my time." She sat. The chair was low. Every chair in the curve was higher than the one they had put her in, and she clocked the 4 inches of difference and filed it and let her face do nothing with it. The woman with the folio wrote the time. "Dr. Bennett," Kwang-shik said, "you have been in this house 12 days. 13 tomorrow. 12 days, he repeated, and did not look up. "In 12 days, you have locked a door against my head of security. You have quoted my own contract to me on 4 separate occasions. You have refused instruction, and you have moved through this house at hours when no member of the medical staff has any business moving through this house. My contract sets a session length. It doesn't set a curfew." One of the gray suits opened his laptop. "That's convenient," Kwang-shik said, "because I'm about to read you something you signed that does." He held out his hand without turning his head, and the woman with the folio put a stapled document into it. 6 pages. The staple in the top left corner had been bent flat with a thumb, and Maya recognized the bend because she had watched him do it. Section 2, Kwang-shik read, "Any disclosure, recording, transcription, or documentation of the patient's condition outside the channels designated by Seo Holdings." He turned the page. He did not read fast. He read like a man who had timed it. And Section 2, Clause 4, "Breach of this agreement shall be considered evidence of intent to influence, manipulate, or exploit the patient." He set the pages on his knee. "Evidence," he said. "That is the word you agreed to. Not suspicion, not concern. Evidence. I haven't disclosed anything to anyone. You record, with your written permission, on a device that is my property," he said, "which you have carried out of this room, into stairwells, into a bank in Mapo, and into a corridor at 2 o'clock in the morning." The room got very quiet in a way rooms only get when everybody in them already knew the next part. Maya kept her hands loose. "Say the accusation out loud." Kwang-shik looked at her for the first time. The lenses of the thin gold glasses caught the window. "You have been going into my nephew's room at night," he said, "alone, unrecorded by any camera, unsupervised by any nurse, building something in his head that is not in his body. You are a woman with $406,000 of her father's debt sitting on her chest and a sister who cannot pay rent on the 30th. And you have found a man in a chair with more money than the country he lives in, and you have decided to make yourself necessary to him." The word landed, and he let it sit. "That is the accusation," he said. "Manipulation of a dependent patient for financial gain, and I have paper for it." The gray suit turned his laptop around. A bank record. Maya's name in Roman letters across the top, then in Hangul underneath. 6 transactions. A 3-week column of Friday transfers from a branch 2 blocks from a church in Mapo. $1,100. 900. 1,200. 900 again. "You go to that branch every Friday," Kwang-shik said. "You went last Sunday's schedule. You went the Friday before. You go with cash. And the nurse's fortnightly leave goes to a church 2 blocks from the same branch." Maya's pulse moved, and she let it move somewhere he could not see it. "You have a doctorate," he said. "You could work anywhere in the world. You came to a house in Seoul, where the patient cannot walk to a lawyer. Explain the branch." "I send money to my sister." "Yes," he said. "You do. 6 times, and you also stand in a corridor at 2 in the morning. You have no footage of that corridor. I know, Kwang-shik said. That's why we're having a meeting instead of a firing. Hee-jin laughed. It was one syllable, and it came out of her without her turning from the window. Kwang-shik ignored it. He turned his head slightly, and Do-shik moved without being told, and the door opened, and Han Ji-woo came in holding the binder against her chest with both arms. She stopped 4 steps inside. Her clogs squeaked once on the wood and then stopped. Nurse Han, Kwang-shik said, you take the patient's vitals twice daily. Yes. For how long? 8 months, since September. And in 8 months, he said, have you recorded any change in the patient's neurological condition? Ji-woo's eyes went to Maya for a quarter of a second and came back. The cardigan was on her. The right pocket hung a half-inch lower than the left. No change, she said. Louder. No change. Every day. And Dr. Bennett, Kwang-shik said, has Dr. Bennett ever asked you to write something in that book that was not true? Maya sat very still and did not turn her head. Everything she had in this house was standing in a mint-colored scrub set 4 steps inside the door, with a piece of paper in her pocket, and if Ji-woo blinked wrong, Sunday died in the next 10 seconds. Ji-woo's chewed fingernails pressed white into the binder cover. No, she said. Dr. Bennett has never asked me to write anything. Has she asked you to leave anything out? No. Has she discussed the patient's legs with you? No. Ji-woo's voice steadied on the 3rd no, and that was the tell, and Maya prayed nobody in that curve of chairs had ever learned to hear it. She reads the book, she hands it back, she signs the tolerance column, that's all. Then Dr. Bennett has been in this house 12 days, Kwang-shik said, and has produced nothing. Yes, thank you. The dismissal came without a word. Do-shik opened the door, and Ji-woo turned, and as she turned, her elbow pressed flat against her own right pocket, and Maya watched a woman hold a bomb against her ribs and walk out of a room full of people who had paid her twice a month for 8 months. The door closed. Kwang-shik put his palm on the NDA. So, he said, either the nurse is lying or you are useless. I have made a decision that covers both. He held his hand out again. The woman with the folio put something in it, and this time it was small and plastic, and it caught the light. Maya's badge. Dr. Maya Bennett. Physical rehabilitation. Temporary. Effective immediately, Kwang-shik said. Your access to this house is revoked. You will not enter the 3rd floor. You will not enter the east wing. You will not enter the patient's room. You will remain in your quarters until Monday morning, at which time you will be escorted to the gate, and the 6-month term will be settled at the 12-day rate under Clause 9. Clause 9 is for termination without cause. There is cause, he said. I am being generous about naming it. Name it in the minutes. The pen of the woman with the folio stopped. Say the words, manipulation of a dependent patient, into the minutes of this meeting, Maya said, in front of 2 attorneys, with my signature on a contract that pays me monthly, and then hand me the paper. She held his eyes. I'll leave at the gate Monday, and I'll take that paper with me. The room did nothing for 3 seconds. Kwang-shik's thumb moved across the bent staple. Strike the last exchange, he said. The pen moved backward through a line. You cite my contract, he said. More than my lawyers do. I've told you that already. He put the badge down on the low table in front of him, face up, where she would have to reach across 9 people to touch it. Then, the cause is this. Insubordination. Repeated. Documented. Monday. The gate. Maya looked at the badge. Temporary in a different font than the rest. Still. 12 days later, because nobody had ever bothered to fix a template for someone who was not going to be there long. The camera in that corridor, she said, is fixed on Monday. Yes. So you're removing me 60 hours before you'd be able to prove anything. I am removing you, Kwang-shik said, before you cost me something I can't get back. And that was the first true sentence he had said in 20 minutes, and Maya heard it and understood exactly which side of it he was standing on, and she kept her chin level. Then Heijin uncrossed her legs. For the record, she said, to nobody, still to the window, I want it noted that I asked for her to be replaced on day 2, and nobody in this room listened to me either. Noted, said the woman with the folio. Good. Somebody write down that I was right about something. Heijin stood, smoothed the front of the champagne silk with 2 fingers, and finally looked at Maya. There was nothing in the look. It was the flat, used-up expression of a woman reading a name off a list she had not written. Dinner's still Sunday. 8 o'clock. The board flies in Saturday, and my brother has to be wheeled out in front of 40 people, whether or not he has a physical therapist, so I'd appreciate it if everyone kept the drama contained until Monday. Sit down, Kwang-shik said. She sat down. And through all of it, the badge, the branch statement, the 6 pages, the nurse standing 4 steps inside the door, Seo Tae-yun had not said one word. Maya turned her head to him now. She let herself do it slowly, so nobody in the curve could call it a plea. He was looking at the floor, 2 feet in front of his own footplate. His hands were flat on his thighs, the way she had put them 100 times to test tone. His jaw held. The koi on the left side of his neck disappeared under the navy collar and stayed there. Tae-hyun-si, Kwang-shik said. Do you object? Everyone in the room turned. Maya watched his left index finger. It lifted a 1/4 inch off the fabric of his trousers, above the knee, and set back down. No, he said. 1 syllable. Flat. The quiet one, doing the only thing his nickname had ever actually meant. The woman with the folio wrote it down. The gray suit closed his laptop. Do-shik's shoulders dropped a 1/2 inch, because the part he had been standing there for was over. Maya stood up. Then we're done, she said. We're done. She walked out without the badge and without looking back at the chair, and she got 20 steps down the corridor before she understood what she had just been given, and when she understood it, she stopped walking with one hand on the rail. He could have spoken. 1 sentence from him and the meeting would have ended. He owned the house, the name, the shipping line, and every chair in that library, and 1 sentence. She stays? And Kwang-shik would have had to swallow it in front of 2 attorneys and a stenographer, and the second he said it, every man in that room would have known the therapist mattered, and they would have gone looking for why. Maya put her forehead against the cold rail for exactly 1 breath. He had let her be thrown out of the house to keep the trap alive, which meant he was still setting it, which meant it was not over, it was moving without her. She took her hand off the rail and kept walking. Her quarters were on the ground floor at the back, 1 window, a bed, a desk, a wardrobe with 3 of her shirts hanging in it. She sat on the bed and pulled her left sleeve up. The 2L in ballpoint was faded to gray from 12 days of washing and re-inking. She took the recorder out of her bag. 12 days, 31 files. Session 1, at 7:02 on a Monday morning, 2 o'clock in the dark, a quadriceps holding 1 second, then 2, then a right leg answering once, late and weak. A man's voice saying, "Since March?" A man's voice saying, 4 people knew the route. She did not press play. She wrapped the recorder in a shirt, put the shirt at the bottom of her bag, and put the bag under the bed against the wall. Then she pulled the desk drawer open, took out the clipboard, and wrote the date, the time of the council meeting, the names of the 9 people in the curve of chairs, and the exact sentence Kwang-shik had ordered struck from the minutes. She wrote it in English, in her own shorthand, on the back of a session log nobody in that house could read at a glance. Then she waited for the house to stop moving, At 8:04, there were footsteps outside her door and no knock. At 8:11, the same footsteps came back the other way. Doshik. Somebody had put a man on the ground floor corridor for the first time in 12 days, and the man was making sure she heard him. At 11 o'clock, the lights in the courtyard cut to half. At 2 o'clock, she sat on the edge of the bed with her shoes in her hand and did not stand up, because there was a man in the corridor and a locked stairwell and 60 hours that were now 42, and for the first night since she had come into this house, she did not go up. At 2:58, she picked up her phone. Gloria answered on the fourth ring, and there was a television on somewhere behind her, and a chair creaking. "It's almost 3 in the morning there," Gloria said. "It's almost 2 in the afternoon there." "Don't do that. What happened?" Maya looked at the window. Beyond it, the courtyard, the wall, the gate, the river she had watched a man refuse to look away from. "I got fired," she said. The television went off. "Okay," Gloria said. "Okay. When?" "An hour and a half ago. I leave Monday morning." "They pay you?" 12 days at term rate. Gloria did the math out loud, because Gloria always did the math out loud. "That's 7,000 and change." "About that." Maya, a breath. "The 30th is in 9 days, and Daddy's letter came Tuesday, and I didn't tell you, because you said ask you Friday. It's Friday. I know. So ask me anything you want. I'm asking you first. What did you do?" "I did my job." "Nobody gets thrown out of a house like that for doing their job." "That's exactly what they get thrown out for." Silence. Then the chair creaked again, and Gloria's voice came back lower, the way it went when she stopped being the older sister and started being the one who had sat in the hospital hallway in Baltimore for 11 days. "Is it him?" she said. "The man in the chair." Maya did not answer. "Maya." "He can feel his left foot," Maya said. The line went completely quiet, not silence, the specific dead air of a person holding their own breath against the receiver. "Since March," Maya said. "His quadriceps holds a voluntary contraction for 2 seconds. Both legs answer. It's not a complete injury, and it has never been a complete injury, and there are 8 months of handwritten pages in that house that say no change, and the man who reads those pages every Friday is the one who signs the checks for the nurse who writes them." "Then tell somebody." "I signed a document that turns telling somebody into evidence that I manipulated him." "That's not..." Gloria stopped. "That can't be legal." "It doesn't have to be legal. It has to be expensive." Another silence. "Come home," Gloria said. "I'll pick up the Saturday shift at Brookhaven, and Denise owes me 2, and we'll get the 30th. We always get the 30th. Get on a plane Monday and come home." Maya stood up. She walked to the window with the phone at her ear and put her free hand flat on the glass, and the glass was cold, and out in the dark, somebody was walking the west wing in 72 steps. Glow. "Don't." "If I get on that plane Monday morning," Maya said, "that man is in that chair for the rest of his life, and everybody in that house knows why, and one of them gets to keep the company. That's not your..." "I know it's not." "Then say the other thing," Gloria said. "The thing you're not saying. Say it out loud so I can hear how it sounds." Maya watched her own breath fog a coin of glass and clear again. "They took my badge," she said. "They took the corridor. They took Monday. They didn't take Sunday." "What's Sunday?" "Sunday there's a dinner," Maya said. 40 people, the board flies in Saturday, and there's a woman in that house who leaves through the front gate at 9 in the morning every second Sunday to go to church, and nobody has ever once searched her on the way out. "Maya, rent's paid on the 30th, Maya said. "Tell Daddy I called." She hung up, and it was 3:11, and somewhere 2 floors above her, a man who had said one word all day was sitting in the dark facing a window he could not walk to, And 41 hours from now, a nurse in a mint scrub set was going to walk out of a gate. Jiwoo came back through the gate at 9:52 on Sunday morning, with a paper folded 4 times in the right pocket of her cardigan, and her hand pressed flat over it, like a woman holding a wound shut. The guard at the gate waved her through. Nobody searched her. Nobody ever had. She went up the service stairs instead of the main hall. She counted the landings out loud under her breath, in Korean, the way she counted a patient's pulse. Maya was still confined to the ground floor room. The door had no lock on the inside, which she had noticed on the first night and thought nothing of, and had thought about every hour since Friday. At 6:04 that evening, a folded scrap came under it. 6 words in English, printed in block capitals: laundry room, 10 minutes, I have it. Maya put on the ivory silk shirt because it was the only clean thing she owned that read as staff. She left the lanyard hook empty. There was nothing to hang on it anymore. The corridor smelled like the kitchen: sesame, hot oil, 40 people's dinner going into 40 warming trays. 2 caterers pushed a rack past her, and neither of them looked up. That was the whole trick. She walked like she was carrying something for somebody important. The laundry room was 3 doors past the kitchen, below the level of the party. Jiwoo was standing between 2 dryers with her back to the wall. 1952, Maya said. You're early. I couldn't sit with it. She took the paper out and it stuck to her palm. She had to peel it. Bank stock, thermal print, the branch stamp still smelling faintly of the machine. Maya smoothed it on top of a dryer with 2 fingers. The Korean she could read was slow. The numbers she could read at a glance, and the numbers were what mattered. Account holder, sending side, Hansong Construction Co., Ltd. And underneath, in the small line that a corporate account carries and a person never thinks about, the authorized signatory. Seo Kwang-shik. Say it, Maya said. Seo Kwang-shik. The dryer behind them turned over and thumped and turned over again. His name is on the account, Jiwoo said. Not the company's officer, his. He signs. He's the only one who signs. Maya's finger came down 2 lines lower. The first deposit. August 10th. 2.8 million won into a night nurse's account. 13 days before a car left the expressway at Bonghwa for a roadwork notice that had never been posted by any city office. But the nurse's line was not the line that stopped her. Under it, the same statement carried a second transaction on the same account, printed because Jiwoo had asked the teller for the full account movement page, and the teller, bored on a Sunday morning, had printed everything the machine would give her. August 21, cash withdrawal, 60 million won. 2 days before, Maya put both hands flat on the dryer. Jiwoo watched her face and read nothing off it, which was the only mercy in the room. There's more on the back, she said. The teller printed both sides. Maya turned it over. 3 lines. A funeral parlor in Gimpo, paid on the 31st of August. A property transfer fee in Jeju, paid on the 11th of September. The month a 51-year-old secretary retired and bought a house. And a monthly standing order that had started in September and had a reference code instead of a name, and the amount on it would cover 11 salaries and a supervisor. Do you know what this is? She said. I know it's a lot of money. It's a price. She read it again. She read it a 3rd time, and then she stood up straight, and something behind her ribs went very quiet and very cold, the way it went before she put her thumb into a joint. A false roadwork sign needs a contractor. A contractor needs an account. And the man who signs that account had taken 60 million won out of it in cash on the 21st of August and had buried his nephew's driver 8 days later with his own hand on the funeral envelope, publicly, in front of photographers. The sister, Jiwoo said. Everyone says the sister. The sister is noise. Maya folded the paper along its own creases, 4 times, exactly as it had come. Where was this printed? Mapo, 906. Did you use your card at the counter? Passbook. Cash for the fee. Good girl. Maya put the paper in the inside pocket of her shirt, against the skin. Now listen to me. In 30 minutes you go to the East Wing and you stay there. You lock your door. If anyone knocks, you're sick. They'll know it was me. They'll know by midnight anyway. What they won't have is you in a room with them when they find out. Jiwoo's hand came up and touched the small gold cross at her throat and dropped again. The therapist before you, she said. I wrote nothing for her too. I know. Upstairs, a string quartet started. Maya went up the service stairs barefoot, with her shoes in her hand, for the last time, and at the top, she put them back on and became a woman walking into a dinner. 40 guests, board members in from the coast since Saturday, the long room off the west terrace, marble the color of bone, one table running the length of it, and candles down the middle in a line so straight somebody had used a measuring tape. Kwang Shik sat at the head. Hyejin sat at his right in the champagne column gown, back bare to the room, saying nothing to anyone. And at the far end, turned slightly out from the table so the chair fit, was Taehyun. Maya came in through the service door and stood against the wall behind the serving station with a folded napkin over her forearm, and for 11 minutes nobody in that room registered her at all. A board member from Busan was making a toast about continuity. Do-shik saw her at minute 12. He came along the wall without hurrying. He put his body between her and the table. You have no badge. No. Then you have no reason to be in this room. Ask him, Maya said, and she looked past Do-shik's shoulder, down the length of the table at the far end. Taehyun was already looking at her. He had been looking at her since she came through the door. His left hand came up off the arm of the chair, palm down, and lowered once. Slowly. 2 inches. Do-shik saw it. His jaw moved, and he stepped back half a pace, and that half pace was the first thing that broke that night. Kwang Shik saw the step. He set his glass down. Dr. Bennett, he said, and the quartet kept playing, and the room kept talking, and only the 11 people nearest the head of the table heard him. You were confined to your room. I was. You leave in the morning. I do. Then what? He said. Are you doing standing at my dinner? Maya walked, not fast, down the long side of the table, past the candles, past a board member's wife who turned to watch her go, and she stopped at the empty patch of floor between the head of the table and the foot of it, which was the only place in the room where everyone could see her at once. Waiting, she said. Hyejin laughed. One note, high and ugly, and she picked up her glass. She came for a scene, Hyejin said in English, to the table, to the board, to the coast. Americans always come for a scene. Sweetheart, they already paid you. 12 days, Maya said, at rate. Then take the money and go be poor somewhere with a nicer view. Hyejin, Kwang Shik did not raise his voice. No, let her stand there. Let them all see it. 8 months of this house pretending, and now the physical therapist. Hyejin turned her wrist and the wine went sideways in the glass. The temporary physical therapist wants a moment. She brought the glass down. The stem snapped against the marble edge of the table, and the bowl came off in her hand, and the sound went through the room like a plate dropped in a church. The quartet stopped mid-bar. 40 people turned. And in the silence after it, a smaller sound, a click, then another, then 8 more, running down the length of the room from the terrace doors toward the hall, each one a half-second behind the last. The locks. Every head turned toward the doors. Do-shik was already at the far wall with his hand on the panel and his earpiece pressed into his ear, and he was not opening anything. He was standing in front of the handle. Kwang Shik's hand went for his cane. Doshik. Sir. Open the doors. Doshik looked down the room, not at his uncle, at the wheelchair. He did not move. At the foot of the table, Taehyun put both hands on the arms of the chair. Nobody understood what they were seeing yet. A man adjusts himself in a chair 40 times a day. A woman 2 seats down was still holding her napkin up to her mouth from the glass. Then his shoulders came forward over his knees, and the tendons stood up in his forearms, and the chair rolled back 4 inches against the brake and stopped. And Seo Taehyun stood up. Somebody screamed. Somebody's chair went over backward. A board member from Busan said the name of God in 3 syllables. He came up crooked. His left knee locked first, and the right leg dragged and shook and took him anyway, and his hand found the back of the chair and let it go, and he was 1.94 meters in a navy shirt, standing at the foot of his own table, breathing through his teeth, 8 months after 2 surgeons signed a page that said complete. The whole length of marble between him and his uncle. He walked it. Badly. Slowly. Left foot flat, right foot scraping the stone, one hand skimming the edge of the table for 11 steps, and then not touching it for the last 6. Wine glasses rang as he passed. Nobody breathed. Hyejin's hand was still open in the air where the glass had been. Kwangshik stood up. That was the first time Maya had ever seen him do anything quickly. Taehyun reached her. He stopped a half meter to her left, and his hand closed around her upper arm, not to steer her, to hold, and then his other hand went flat against the small of her back and stayed there, and he turned her 90 degrees so that she was facing the head of the table beside him and not behind him. He said it to the room in Korean first and then in English, because the board from the coast needed it in English. She works for me now. 60 million won of silence. Taehyuna, Kwangshik said, sit down. She has been my physician since the 9th of April. His voice came out low, and it did not shake. Everything she did on my instruction. Everything the nurse wrote, she wrote on my instruction. You dismissed my staff on Friday without asking me. You are not well. I walked to you. Maya reached into her shirt and took out the paper and put it on the table in the space between the candles and turned it around so it faced the head. Hansong Construction, she said, and her voice carried better than she expected, and she let it. Corporate account, 2.8 million won, twice a month, to Han Ji-woo, starting August 10th. That's 13 days before Banghwa. The lawyer 3 seats down leaned in. Read the signatory line, Maya said. He read it. He sat back like the chair had bitten him. Say it out loud, Taehyun said. Seo Kwangshik, the lawyer said. The old man's hand closed on the head of the cane. The jade ring caught the candlelight. And the 21st of August, Maya said. 60 million won, cash, out of the same account. 2 days before your nephew's car left the expressway for a roadwork sign that no city office in Seoul ever posted. She put one finger on the line and slid the paper an inch toward him. You bought the road, she said. And then you bought the funeral. The board member from Busan set his napkin down on the table very carefully, as if it might go off. Turn it over, she said to the lawyer. He turned it over. The funeral in Gimpo, 31st of August. The property fee in Jeju, 11th of September, 4 days after a secretary of 51 retired to an island she had never lived on, and a standing order that has paid 11 men and the man who counts them every month since. Doshik's chin came up an inch. Every mouth that could say the word Banghwa was fed out of one account, Maya said. Mine included, if I'd stayed quiet, 18,000 a month and 6 pages that turned repeating anything I heard into proof I was a thief. This is a forgery, Kwangshik said. It's a bank print with a branch stamp. There are 8 copies of that account's movement history in a nurse's phone since November, and one in a locked drawer in Mapo. Maya's hands were steady. And there are 31 audio files with timestamps of a man you told the world was dead from the chest down, asking me to keep it out of your nurse's book. 32, Taehyun said. Hyejin made a sound. Not a laugh this time. She had her hand over her mouth, and her eyes were on her brother's shoes, on his feet, flat on the marble, holding him, and her shoulders went once, hard. October 22nd, Taehyun said, without turning to her. You stopped coming into that room on October 22nd. Hyejin's head came up. Park Sung-ho was removed from my case on October 20th, he said. You found out 2 days later, and you sat in a car outside this house at 4 in the morning for 6 months because you were afraid to sleep inside it. I couldn't prove anything, Hyejin said. In Korean, very quietly, you could have told me. They'd have put you back on a table. Kwang-shik lifted the cane and set the tip on the marble. Enough. No, Taehyun said. He turned his head toward the wall. Do-shik. Do-shik came off the door. He walked the length of the room and stopped 4 steps short, the way a man stops in front of an altar. Who pays you? Taehyun said. Since September, the chairman's brother. Who pays you tonight? Do-shik's hand went up to his ear and he pulled the earpiece out and held it in his fist. You do. Then lock the hall doors and let no one out of this room until the lawyers are on the line, and put 2 men on the East Wing corridor for the nurse. Yes. He turned and the doors went one by one down the room, and the sound was the same sound as before, and this time the whole table understood it. Kwang-shik sat down. It was not a decision. His knees did it for him. The lawyer beside him was already on his phone, and he was not calling a defense, he was calling the bank, because a board member with 60 million won of cash and a dead driver on the same page as a corporate signatory has about 4 hours before somebody freezes something, and he wanted it to be the board and not the prosecutor. By 11:10, the Hansong accounts were frozen. By midnight, so were 3 of the family holdings that had been drawing off them, because they had all been drawing off the same trough since 1978, and nobody in that room had ever once asked what a shipping group needed a construction company for. Maya stood where she had been put and did not move out from under his hand. Taehyun's arm had started to shake against her back. 11 minutes on his feet, 8 months of atrophy, and he was paying for every second of it, and he stayed standing because the whole coast was watching, and a man does not sit down in the middle of that. 2 more minutes, she said, under the noise, only to him. 3, 2, your right quad's done, and I'm not carrying you in front of 40 people. The corner of his mouth moved. At 12:40, Kwang-shik was walked out of the West Terrace door by 2 of the 11 men he had paid for since September, with a jade ring in his coat pocket and no cane, because the cane stayed in the room. His lawyers went with him. His daughter's husband went with him. The house staff carried out 4 suitcases that had been packed by strangers. The rest of the family was off the property by 5:20 in the morning, before the sun came up over the river, because Taehyun had said by sunrise. And Do-shik had understood it as a deadline and not a figure of speech. Hyejin was the last one at the gate. She stood there with the mirrored clutch in both hands. He'll say I knew, she said. You'll say the 22nd of October, Maya said, and you'll say it to a prosecutor, not to me. Hyejin looked past her, up at the 3rd-floor window where a light was on. 8 months, she said. I sat out here 8 months. Come inside next time. At 3:47 that morning, Maya sat on the bottom step of the west stair, with her phone on her knee, and sent $1,100 to Silver Spring, and then $1,200 more, and then she typed, Rent's covered. Tell Daddy I'll call Sunday. and watched the three dots move for a long time before Gloria answered with one word and a question mark. She wrote back, "It's Friday, somewhere." Then she went and got the recorder out from under the bed, unwrapped it from the shirt, and put it in the pocket of the lab coat where it had lived for 12 days, because 32 files were going to a prosecutor on Tuesday, and she was not letting them out of her own hands until then. Someone had left the badge on the low table by the library door. Dr. Maya Bennett, physical rehabilitation, temporary, the last word in a different font, printed by someone who had been certain about it. She picked it up and put it in her pocket with the recorder. At 6:40 on Monday morning, the exact hour of her first arrival, to the minute, and nobody planned that, the corridor camera above room 4 came back online. The technician tested it, and it recorded a black woman in an ivory shirt sitting on a low stool with a man's bare left foot in her hands, and a matte carbon fiber wheelchair pushed against the far wall with a folded suit jacket thrown over the seat. She pressed her thumb into the medial arch. "Say when." "Now." "That's not sensation. That's you guessing." "Then ask me again." She asked him again. He answered. She wrote it down on paper this time, in a fresh binder, with her own name at the top and the date under it, and the last column of the first page said, in her handwriting, in English, "Change." If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Tell me, K-Fam, have you ever done the real work on someone's body or life, while a piece of paper insisted nothing was changing? Has a family ever mocked you at their own table, until the truth arrived in an envelope? Who signed the transfer in your story? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about dignity, betrayal, and cold justice, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.